Hi everyone, I recently bought some of the main versions of the Spectrum, so the 48K, the Plus 2, and the Plus 3, and they were all listed as being in good conditions with the boxes and everything inside, from the power supply to the manuals. So let's open them up together to see if that's true. Okay, so let's start with the first Spectrum, which is the 40K one, and it looks in great conditions actually. There are signs of wear, especially on the corners, and it looks like there was a sticker here. But besides that, it looks in great conditions, so let's have a look inside. The corners seems pretty fragile, so I'll be careful since I don't want to mess them up even more. The styrofoam is actually in great conditions, except for this mark pen over here. Usually over the year it warps when in contact with other objects like plastic, but that's not the case here. And it's actually in great conditions even inside. It looks like opening a brand new one. We've got the power supply, the 48 kilobyte Spectrum, and it looks like underneath there are also the manuals, so let's check the conditions. So the Spectrum actually looks in pretty good conditions. There isn't even a bit of dust or a scratch, so I'd say that it's in perfect conditions. Over here we have an introduction manual. Let's see what's inside. It's divided in chapters, and you can see that there's the computer and the setting up, the keyboard, numbers, programming, the cassette recorder, colors, sound, and also inside the case. So I guess that you can see a simple explanation of what's inside the motherboard. And there is a picture over here with the CPU, the RAM, voltage regulator, and the speaker. And it's, I'd say, in pretty good conditions. There's also a basic programming manual, and let's just hope not to ruin it. Let's see. Well, it's also divided in chapters, and there is the introduction, programming concepts, and it gets more difficult. There are functions, mathematical functions, and simple programs. So yeah, I'd say that it's in pretty good conditions, even this programming manual. There are also a few cables over here, and they're in pretty good condition. Usually the styrofoam sticks to the cables and it warps over time, but that's not the case here. So let's try to see if the Spectrum works. And on the back of the box you can also see how to set up your Spectrum, and there's also everything that the pack includes, which is the Spectrum, the power supply, some manuals, and also a free demonstration cassette that unfortunately it's not inside anymore. But now let's have a look at the Spectrum itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is to check the voltage, but before anything else, I just wanted to remind you that the content of this video is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. The creator is a hobbyist, not a certified technician, and performs all actions at their own risk. Viewers are strongly advised not to replicate any procedure shown. So let's try connecting it. Unfortunately, the Spectrum doesn't have a switch, so I've connected the power supply directly into the Spectrum, and now let's see if it works. Well, there's definitely a problem here. Something is clearly wrong. I'm not sure what might be causing this problem. I've heard on various websites that these kind of issues are often related to the RAMs, but I'm not sure, so let's try to open the Spectrum to see what the problem might be. I just need to remove 5 screws over here, and then I can open my Spectrum. I'll be careful, try not to ruin the ribbon cables. Let's see how's inside. Well, I'm sure that the keyboard won't work very well since this ribbon cable right over here is a bit torn. and I'll need to fix that too. So I think I'll just start by checking the voltages in the voltage regulator and all the RAMs over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is to check the voltage regulator over here, and I'm going to put the black probe on the heatsink or also on the RF modulator, and the first pin should be around 5 volts. And that's fine actually. So another thing I could check are these RAMs over here, since they tend to fail pretty frequently. The first pin should be around -5, so -4.8 is pretty good. I've heard that for the kind of issue that I'm having, usually IC 6, 7 and 9 tend to fail, and since this is the issue 1 board, IC 6 should be this RAM over here, this should be IC 9 and this should be IC 7. So if I don't find any issue with the voltages, I think I'm just going to replace them. And all the voltage seems to have no issue. This should be 5, which is perfect, 5.03. Yeah, all the voltages are correct. So, well, they actually feel pretty hot compared to the other RAMs. So I think I'm just going to replace them, and also I'm going to install some sockets, since it's going to be hard to do some work on this board if the RAMs aren't socketed. So I marked all the RAMs that I need to remove back here, and then I'm going to install some sockets, so any work on this board will be easier in this way. I'm going to try to replace them and remove the RAMs to see if anything changes. Okay, so I finally managed to remove all the RAMs, and now I'm going to install some sockets to see if anything changes if I replace the RAMs. The sockets are in place, and I also got these 3 RAMs from another Spectrum, which is working, so I'm sure I won't have any problems with these RAMs. And they're not the same model. This is a D416C and this is a 4116, but I've checked the schematics and they should be compatible. If it won't work in this way, I'll just replace all the RAMs, but I think I'll just put the sockets in all the RAMs anyway, so any further work on this Spectrum will be easier, but for now I'll just see if it works by replacing these RAMs. And since we're talking about circuit boards, I also wanted to mention PCBWay, which offer custom PCBs, personalized assembly services, and various accessories that are useful for projects like these, with the ability to customize every detail from the size of the PCB to the color of the traces. And if you're working on a simple project, their website has plenty of options, along with a large collection of projects created by others that can be a great source of inspiration. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description below, and now let's see if the Spectrum works. And now let's see if I've solved the issue. Well, it seems to be working fine. Let's check the keyboard, since the ribbon cable was broken, but all the keys seems to be working fine, so I guess cutting off the broken part really fix the issue. Everything is working fine, so I guess I can just move on to the next spectrum. Let's move on to the second spectrum, the Spectrum Plus, and even here, aside from some wear on the edges, it's in pretty good conditions, so let's have a look inside. And the Spectrum is actually in perfect conditions. It's wrapped in plastic, and of course it's not the original, but it doesn't even have a bit of dust and not even a scratch. Even here on the back it's in perfect conditions. Maybe there is a little scratch over here, but besides that, it's brand new. There is also a guide for the user, which is in Italian, and it's divided into different chapters. So the beginning, how to prepare your Spectrum Plus, how to program, learn everything about your Spectrum, and learn the Sinclair basic. And all the chapters have a different color, of course, the colors of the Spectrum. So I really like that, and it's brand new basically. There are also various cables here, the antenna cable, the power supply, and a cassette, which is a guide for the user. And it explains how the Spectrum Plus works. So yeah, everything looks brand new, and now let's see if it works. So I've checked the voltage of the power supply and it's around 10 volts, so that's fine. I've connected the Spectrum and now let's see if it works. I really hope it does. And it seems to be working fine. Also, all the keys are working as they should, so no issues from that point of view. But now I also want to try the cassette. So I'm going to use this cassette player over here. Inside the Spectrum box there was everything I needed to connect it to the cassette player, so the mic cable and the air cable. And all I need to do is insert the cassette, type load, and then see what happens. I wanted to try this cassette, which is a guide for the user, so it explains how to use the Spectrum Plus, but then I also remembered that I have these games that are still in the original box, and as you can see, there is the logo here and it's a bit ruined. There is a piece of tape here to hold it together, but it's still the original box, and there are different type of games. Some of them, like Flight Simulator, I've never tried. I've already tried Cookie, I really liked it, but I'm not very good at it. So maybe I'll just try a game to see if the Spectrum can load cassettes and see what happens. Let's open the box and see how's inside. So there's still the original plastic, which is a bit ruined here on the corner, but everything else seems in perfect conditions. And maybe I'll just try Cookie and see if I can improve in this game. First of all, I need to insert the cassette inside the cassette player and press review. Wait until it's over, and then I need to press load and enter and load. Let's see if it works and what happens. For now, I don't see any problem. It's normal that it's red and blue, so I should see a red and a blue screen for about 30 seconds, and then I should be able to see the game. It says program cookies, so everything is working fine. Well, I can see that Cookie is loading, but there's also an error. So it says R-type loading error 114. I've never seen this kind of issue. And of course it's related to the loading, so it's not loading the cassette as it should. And I really hope it's related to the cassette player and not the Spectrum. But I'm not sure how to solve this issue, so maybe I could ask ChatGPT if she can help me solve this problem. Okay, so I have ChatGPT here on my phone, and let's just ask her if she can give me any useful advice for the kind of issue that I'm having. So we'll just say that, of course, I was loading a game on my ZXspectrum and that I have an issue. So error type loading error 114, and let's see if she can give me any kind of advice. Okay, so she's actually saying that I could try to increase or decrease the volume and also clean the reading head of my cassette player, which seems fair. And of course it could be also a hardware issue related to the Spectrum, but I really hope it will be a problem related to the cassette player. So let's just try to do these kind of things before trying to open the Spectrum and assume that the issue is related to the computer itself. So first of all, I'll set the volume a bit lower, and then I'll clean the reading head with the cotton swab and a bit of isopropyl alcohol. Let's see. I really hope this will solve the problem. It doesn't look that dirty, but just in case, before trying anything more complicated. Well, it was a bit dusty actually, so let's try to see if it works now. Let's load the game and see if it works. So far so good, it's working as it should, and it says program cookie, so that's a good sign. Well, it says cookie is loading, so maybe I fixed the issue, but there's definitely something wrong with the write, and it also says bytes CSP, which I actually don't know what it means. I think it's saying that it's loading the game, but I'm not sure it's supposed to write that. It seems to be working fine.
One eternity later.
And it works! The game is running as it should, so let's see how many ingredients I can actually gather. Onto the Spectrum 2 Plus. As you can see, the Plus and the 48K boxes were in great conditions, while this one is a bit ruined, so I'll be careful and I'll just hope I won't ruin it any further while trying to opening it, and I really hope that the inside will be in better conditions. Let's have a look inside, and it looks in pretty good conditions. It's a bit dusty and there is a red hair, but besides that, it looks in pretty good conditions. I don't see any scratch or something like that. And inside the cassette player there is a bit of dust, so maybe I'll just need to clean it with some cotton swab and isopropyl alcohol. Let's see if there's anything else here. Well, there is no instruction manual like in the Plus and in the 48K Spectrum, but at least there is the power supply and all the cables, so let's start to see if it works, but before that I just want to clean it a little bit. Everything is in place, and now let's see if it works. There is the red light here, and it's also in perfect conditions, so I really hope it will work. Let's see. And it's working. Let's try to see if the keyboard also works fine. Maybe I could try to write a simple basic program. So a simple animated effect with some randomly placed text. I'm going to set the border black and also the background with a white text. And of course I also want to clear the screen. I'm going to repeat it for 10 times. So I'm going to write a loop for 10 times. And then I'm going to print the text itself in a random position. Of course, this is a very simple program, so it's going to be just a couple of lines to test if it works fine and if everything works as it should. And then I'm going to repeat it until the loop is over. So next I, and then I'm going back to line 20, so it's going to make it run forever. Let's see if it works fine. It's working. And now I also want to see if the cassette player works, since it was a bit dusty before, but I really hope it will work and it will load a game. Let's try a different game. So for example, flight simulation. I just need to go in tape loader and I need to insert the tape and then press play. It was a bit dusty, but I hope it will read the game anyway. Well, it seems like it's loading the game because it says program flight, so I guess it's working. Well, it works. It loaded the game. It took a long time, but it's working just fine, so I guess I can move on to the last spectrum. This is the last spectrum. As you can see, the box is in good condition, but here on the corner there is a lot of tape to hold it together because it's a bit ruined. So I'll just try to be very careful and let's have a look inside. Well, this is actually in pretty good conditions. Maybe I'll need to clean the case a little bit, but I don't even see a scratch. There's also the power supply, which is a bit dusty, and let's see if there's something else inside. There's also a guide for the ZXspectrum 3 Plus. It's not colored as the one for the Plus 2, but it's in pretty good condition. There's also a floppy in here, since the Spectrum Plus 3 have the floppy disk drive inside. So let's see if it turns on and also if the floppy disk drive works. I was checking the voltage of the power supply before turning on the Spectrum when I heard something moving inside. I'm not sure what this noise could be, but it's definitely concerning. It could be a component or something that could make contact. So I'll just open the Spectrum before turning it on. And there are also some screws here on the corner that are placed in a strange way. It looks like they've put the screws back before putting the upper case in place. So definitely someone has already opened this Spectrum, and let's see what's inside. I removed all the screws and now I can finally see the motherboard. There's also a cable that I need to unplug. And let's see if something is off. Well, there is this piece of white plastic over here that I'm not sure what this could be. And also maybe this piece was causing the noise that I heard before, but it could also be something else. And I also want to remove the screws and have a look inside the floppy disk drive, since I want to check on the belt. Usually it breaks pretty easily, and I also want to check that something isn't moving inside. I finally managed to remove all the screws and the cables, and well, the belt looks moved. Well, no, it's completely broken. There are some other pieces too, so it was never going to work in this way, and of course I'll need to replace it. So I removed all the broken parts inside the floppy disk drive, but I'm not sure where the other pieces are. I'm just going to replace it with some spare belts that I have and then see if it works. Everything is in place and now let's see if it works. I haven't found any component rattling around my Spectrum, so I'll just try it and see if it works. Of course, I've checked the voltage of the power supply and it's perfect. It works. Let's see. The keyboard is also working, so let's try a floppy. Let's see if it reads the floppy, and the light is flashing, so that's definitely a good sign. It seems like it's reading the floppy, also from the sound that it's making. It works! So it's in perfect conditions, it reads the floppy, and I don't see any other problems. This was the last Spectrum, so this video ends here. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'm pretty satisfied since all the Spectrum were working except for the first one, but they were all in good conditions. Don't forget to subscribe to my Patreon page where I post updates, photos and videos behind the scene, and also additional videos. For example, last week I posted a gameplay of Amiga 500 games, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and see ya in the next video. Bye!